All right, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to cross-platform chatbot development with Einstein bots. My name is Chris Arganish, and I'm a certified Salesforce consultant working at 7 Summits, where I help my clients build community-led multi-cloud solutions on Salesforce. I've worked with clients in different industries, ranging from startups to large enterprises, and I've played different roles on projects. The reason I show you the different roles that I've played on projects is because I want you to have a good idea, a good sense of what my skill set is, and I'm not a technical person. I don't have a technical background. But by the end of today, you're all going to be able to, if you don't have a technical background, you're all going to be able to build a cross-platform chatbot if you feel the need to. So before we get started, I want to show a slide that everyone is familiar with, I'm sure. And I want to also remind you not to make any purchasing decisions based on anything that is not currently available. Luckily for us, everything that we're going to cover today is GA, so you can go and build a cross-platform chatbot today if you wanted. So I figured it would make sense to just start with a quick level set and define a chatbot so that everyone's on the same page. I read a book called Designing Bots, and the author described a bot as a new user interface that lets users interact with services and brands using their favorite messaging app. Here's a familiar example of a web interface that we're all used to on the left-hand side when compared to a very similar use case on a chat interface. So we're all here for Dreamforce, and we all work at big companies. And we need to think about what this chatbot really means in the context of the enterprise. And so for what we care about, a chatbot is automated. In many cases, it's 24/7. It's working around the clock. It's also able to perform basic business tasks that are very repeatable and require relatively low effort to carry out. And they also have the ability to hand off to an actual person, in our case, a live agent with Salesforce Service Cloud. So now, what exactly do I mean by a cross-platform bot? And I attempted to define cross-platform in my own words. But it's basically a bot that works on different platforms, as you would imagine. Some of those platforms may be web, native applications on either iOS or Android. And there's also different chat applications like Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But for the sake of today's demo, we're going to build a cross-platform chatbot and focus on web as well as a native iOS app. And to that point, I'd like to quickly set expectations. We're going to cover a lot of material here, and we can't go deep on everything. So I just wanted to give you a few bullet points on what we will cover as well as what we won't cover today. And being that we're not going to go too deep on any specific topic, I also recommended a few sessions that I think you should all check out if you do want to go deeper on any of these topics. So traditionally, building a chatbot that's connected to your enterprise is pretty hard to do. It takes a team, a very specialized team at that, to build out. You need JavaScript developers that know backend Node.js. You need native developers that know either Swift or Android. And you need someone to help integrate that data into your chatbot. So it's no easy feat, traditionally. That all changed in summer 18 with Einstein bots. I'm sure you all have heard of them. Some of you may have played around with them a little bit. But it really is a game changer because now we have a native solution that's point and click that's connected to your enterprise applications on Salesforce. It's also enabled with artificial intelligence through Einstein platform services. And there's some really cool features around intent management that you can use through those services. I also want to remind everyone that chatbots aren't just for customer service use cases. It's part of Service Cloud, yes, but I want to challenge you all to think about use cases outside of Service Cloud, because what we're able to do is we're able to invoke Apex as well as flows to automate just about any business process in Salesforce. So it's really powerful and definitely not limited to Service Cloud. So you're probably wondering, how are we going to bring this chatbot cross-platform? It doesn't just work auto-magically. So we're going to use what are called Service Cloud snap-ins to make this happen. And when we use our snap-ins, what we're going to be able to do is build a chatbot once and use it on multiple platforms. We're going to focus today on web, which will be a Lightning community, and then we'll also focus on an iOS mobile app written in Swift, and both of which will use the snap-ins to add our chatbot to our respective apps. All right, now this is why everyone's here. You guys want to see a demo, I know. I'm going to tell you about a top secret assignment that I've been given, and I hope you all don't leave the room and talk about this to your colleagues. Just leave it here, but just bear with me. I'm telling you some information that I probably shouldn't, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. I have a client by the name of Tony Stark. Tony's great. He's very ambitious. He's one of the most innovative people I know, and above all, he's got very high expectations. Because he's such an innovative person, he has heard of a thing called Salesforce and has invested heavily in the platform over at Stark Industries. I helped Tony build an employee community that's part knowledge base, part his personal dashboard. So I'll show you that in just a bit. I'm also helping Tony with a new design for an iOS app that will accompany this community. I'll show you that as well. So Tony asked me to look into something. He said, Chris, I want to build a personal assistant AI for my business apps. I said, okay, ambitious as always, that's Tony. And then he gave a few other requirements. He said, I want to be able to automate certain business processes on this artificial intelligence. I would like to use the bot in my community as well as my iOS app. And I looked at him with a blank stare and I was like, okay, that sounds great, let's do it. So he asked me, he said, hey, can you help me build a proof of concept for this cross-platform chatbot on my community and my iOS app? So like any good consultant, I did my research and found out that Einstein bots actually work hand in hand with Live Agent. And you can add that Live Agent to your communities through the snap-in Lightning component. Let's see how that works. Sorry about that. There we go. Nope. Okay. Bear with me, folks. Okay. There we go. All right. So we're going to get started here in our demo. And what I want to show you first is the first step to make this all happen. The first thing we need to do is we need to build a Lightning community so that we can add our chatbot to that community. And as I mentioned, I built Tony a employee community that's part knowledge base, part dashboard. It's really just for him, but you'll see the site here, and I'll just scroll through to show you what we have here. So it's live, it's working. And here's what it looks like in our community builder. So I'll give this a quick refresh. And this is a pretty standard implementation of Community Cloud where we're using a standard theme, which is part of Summer 18. We're using the Citizen theme, which I really like. You also have other themes if you want to adjust the look and feel. And then you also have themes on the App Exchange if you want to check those out. Here we have an Einstein Analytics dashboard that shows Tony some of his analytics. We have some quick actions here for Tony to create new equipment if it ever goes wrong. And then we also have a section here for Tony's desk, which shows him some of his project information as well as a place for him to manage his activities. And then finally, we have this footer HTML component where we've got the site footer. So it's pretty standard. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to really quick just go to the components menu and type in snap in, or snap in this case, and just find that snap in lightning component. And it's standard, just keep that in mind. So I added it to my community, and we're good to go, at least for now. So I'm going to leave this here and go over to setup. So the first thing I need to do is create an Einstein bot. And what I need to do in order to do that is I need to have at least one live agent license. So that's a prerequisite. And then once I have that live agent license, I can enable Einstein bots. So you need to enable Einstein bots here with this little check mark here. And then you also need to activate your deployment channel for live agent and make sure that these two checkboxes are checked. At this point, you're going to receive an email from Salesforce with two different links, one for production, one for sandbox. And when you click on either of those links, you're going to get a certificate for your Einstein Platform Services account. And from here, when you receive that email, you'll click either production or sandbox, depending on which environment you're working in. And you'll have to go type in certificate and key management and create a new self-signed certificate. So I created bot certificate, bot cert, and that's my certificate for this org. So now that I have that set up, what that does is that basically says, okay, Chris enabled Einstein bots in his org, and he wants to use Einstein Platform Services. So if you wanted to, you can take your Einstein bot and you can add intent sets, which is where that starts to pay dividends rather. And that's where natural language processing capability comes into play, and you can leverage that if you want. We're not going to cover that today, but I just wanted to let you know that step is important if you do want to leverage those intents. So I'm going to go over to our bot menu again, and I'm going to create a new bot. So this is the point-and-click nature of Einstein Bot Builder, and it really gives us the ability to just build a chatbot really quickly with just a few clicks. And so I'm going to call this bot Jarvis, because Tony already has a personal assistant. We might as well name it that way. And then we're going to say, we'll give it a greeting, basic greeting. Actually, I'm going to call this Jarvis Dreamforce. And there's our greeting. And we're going to prototype a few different menu items. So view my projects, search, knowledge base, and browse topics. And I'm not going to actually build these out today, but it's really just for our prototype that we're building. So now we have a little bit of an error, so I'm going to just step back a little bit, and I'm going to call this Tony's bot. We'll give this another try. what I'm doing wrong. Okay, I'm just going to call it Jarvis DF. Okay, let's try that again. And there we go. We have a new bot that we created, and it only took a few clicks, and technically it works. You know, it's a real implementation of an Einstein bot. So I'll be honest, I'm not going to go much further than this as far as the chatbot piece is concerned. We're going to make this chatbot cross-platform, so I have a lot to cover over to make that happen. But I encourage you all to, from this point, use your own use cases. You can create whatever chatbot you'd like for your own use case. And again, my goal is to help you build an end-to-end demo by the end of this session. So we're going to make sure that happens. The last step here is just to make sure that we activate the chatbot. And from here, we can go back to setup. Okay. So we're actually going to switch from Lightning Experience over to Salesforce Classic. And that's because we need to set up Live Agent next. And Live Agent, unfortunately, you cannot build in Lightning Experience setup. You can only do it in Classic. That's why I'm doing it this way. And so I'm going to type in Live Agent. I'll zoom in a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that Live Agent is enabled. Very first step, check this checkbox and save. Sorry about that. And next, what we need to do is we need to create a skill for our Live Agent. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to create a new skill. I'm going to call it Jarvis POC. And I'm going to assign that skill to our system admin so that we can test it out. Okay, great. Next, we're going to go back over to the Live Agent menu and create a chat button rather. And so go to the button item there and click new, and then you're going to create a chat button, and we're going to call this Jarvis POC. And we're going to select English as its language, and we're going to assign the button to a skill for when it gets routed. And lastly, what we want to do is we want to look up to our Einstein bot configuration that we just created. So I will go and find that bot, Jarvis Dreamforce, and click Save. Okay. So I'm going to keep this window open because we're going to need this snippet here in just a bit. But I can exit out of Skills, and I can exit out, well, I'll stay there. Okay. The next thing we want to do is create a Live Agent configuration. So let's go open that tab and create our configuration. Name it accordingly. And then we'll assign a profile to it so we can test it out. We'll also assign our skill in 2 places, and then finally add our button as well. We'll click Save there. All right, great. So we can exit out of this. And finally, what we're going to do is create a Live Agent deployment. So I'm going to click New and name it. All right, and then I'll click Save. And I'm going to keep this tab open as well because I need this code snippet. So I've got 2 code snippets here, and I have a Live Agent configuration and deployment set up. I also have an Einstein bot. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over to Lightning Experience again. The final step that I needed to do is I need to create a snap-in deployment. So this snap-in deployment is going to allow us to just go back to that standard Lightning component that I showed you in our community, and it's going to allow us to configure this chatbot over there. So I typed in snap-ins in Lightning Experience Setup and named it, naming it accordingly. And then you need to set a site. So the site is your community, and I have Stark Industries KB as my selected community for this snap-in deployment. Okay, now that it's created, all I need to do is click Start. And I just want to double check that our deployment and our button are both correct, and then click Save. Okay, so now our deployment is active. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to disable pre-chat because it's not really part of the scope of today's demo. So now it's all ready to go. I can go into the community builder, I can refresh the page, and I can add this Einstein bot deployment to my community. And this is all through configuration, as you see. It doesn't take a technical person to really make this happen, which is really exciting because before, as I mentioned, you would need a ton of development hours to really make this possible. So I'm going to scroll down to the Lightning component and select the chat deployment. That is it. And then I'll click Publish. So while that site publishes, I'm going to go over here and refresh my page to test it out. Okay, it's looking good. I see that we've got our chat button here. And let's see what happens when I click it. Let's try to see if it works. Okay, it's working. It's our chatbot working in our community. So that's the first step. We have one platform that we can cross out. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out how to, sorry about that. I'm just going to organize my screens real quick. Okay. Next thing we need to do is create our native app. And so I chose to write an iOS app. You can do iOS or Android if you choose to. But if you want to write an iOS app, you need to download the iOS SDK called Xcode. And you can go to developer.apple.com/Xcode to download that app. And once you have it downloaded, you'll see this screen pop up. And we're going to create a new Xcode project. And similar to Community Builder, you'll notice that, you notice that we have templates that we can choose from in Xcode. I'm not going to go into these, but we're going to pick the first one, and we're going to call this Jarvis. And you'll notice that it's written in Swift. So this entire app will be written in iOS, in the latest iOS language, Swift. So I'll click Finish, and I'm going to save this to my home page, or my desktop. So if I open this up, you'll notice that we've got our project directory, and clicking on this Xcode proj file would open the app, or open the Xcode file, rather. Okay, at this point, I'm just going to force quit Xcode, because I don't need it anymore, at least not for now. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to open up my terminal. And what I'm going to use is a dependency management framework called CocoaPods. And I'll make sure to include this in the list of resources so that you know how to get started with CocoaPods. But basically it allows us to go and grab a library on the internet and install that into our app. So in this case, we're going to take the mobile SDK from Salesforce, and we're going to make sure that we add that information that we need to enable that functionality to our app. And CocoaPod is going to help us do that. So the first thing I need to do is I need to type in, well, I need to go to my app on my directory. So I need to change directory to my desktop, and then do it again for the app. So you'll see here that my files in the terminal are the same that you see in the directory there. So we're not doing anything crazy here. We're just accessing this folder in our terminal. So once you have CocoaPods installed, what you need to do is you need to create a pod file for your project. And a pod file is just taking instructions that say, install the Service Cloud Snap-in in my app. It's really pretty simple. So I'm going to type pod init, and what you'll see over here on the right is that this new file gets created called pod file. So I'm going to open that file, and you'll notice that it gives you kind of a starter template. And I'm actually just going to open up a previous file real quick and add a few lines of code. And so this is basically saying that for the target, this app that I'm building, add CocoaPod's capability, and specifically add the Service SDK/chat framework or library. And I'm going to save this file. And so this is where you would say, like, depending on which snap-in you want to implement, you would say which one you actually want to install in your app. In this case, we're using chat for Live Agent. There's also knowledge, there's case management, and there's SOS. So in any case, I'm going to exit out of this now that I've saved it. And I'm going to type in a new command, pod install. Again, nothing crazy. Just a command here, and you'll see that it generates a few new files. So now the SDK is in my app, which is great. And you'll notice that of these new files, there's an XC workspace file. So this is our new source of truth for the app, and this is what we're going to use to build the rest of the app. So I'll open up that file and open up Xcode. And I'm going to navigate down to this file called main.storyboard. And this is a canvas. It's a builder type of application that allows you to build apps in Xcode. And the first thing I want to do is just change the size of this so that it fits the iPhone X. So we've got our canvas. And the next thing that I want to do is go down here and add what's called an image view to this canvas. So I'll type that in, drag this right here on my canvas, and size it to the canvas. And at this point, you're going to want to get a design for your app. This is for our prototype. So you may be working with a designer at your company. In my case, I designed this mock-up for the homepage of our app in this app called Sketch, which is what designers frequently use. So I'm going to take this mock-up and I'm going to export it to my desktop. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit in size. And you'll see that I've got this mock-up on my desktop. So the next thing I'll do is go over to the Assets folder. And I'm going to drag this over to the Assets folder. OK. From here, I can go back to my storyboard, click on this image view that I added, and go over to the inspector. In this section, we've got an image parameter, and we're going to type in the name of our file. So there we go. We've got a working application when I click this play button. So that's the first step, to import the actual design file here and just test to make sure that your app is working. So you'll see that it's building, it's compiling the file, and it's going to show me just a static page that I added to my prototype. We'll give it a second, and here it is. Great. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to create a button. And we're going to go down to the bottom right and type in button. I'm going to drag that on our canvas. Not too hard, right? And so from here, I'm going to resize this so that it covers my image file, at least the button portion. And I'm also going to remove that button text. So we'll see here that when we click, we've got a real working button. Now we just need to tell it what to do. So from here, we're going to click on the view controller, canvas, as well as these little rings here. And I'm going to hide a few of these sections here. And so when we click those rings, what this basically says is for this view controller, show me the code that sits behind it, that powers it. So right now it's pretty simple. We just created the project. So what we need to do is we need to import a few different things. First, I'm going to import Service Core, and that's available because I installed the library through CocoaPods, remember. Next, I want to import Service Chat. Okay, cool. From here, I'm going to go to the bottom of my file and free some space, and then I'll click on the button that I created earlier. And I'm going to click Control, Alt, and then drag from the canvas to the code. And basically, I'm creating a function that's telling this button to do something. And I'm going to call it Launch Chat. So again, this isn't anything too crazy. We're just writing just a few lines of code to make this happen. So I'm going to go over to this guide real quick and grab some code that Salesforce provides. And this is the configuration section that we're going to add to our app. So in this function, we're going to add this configuration right here. And the first thing we need to do is we need to go back to our demo org. There we go. And we're going to find our deployment snippet, and we're going to grab that. So I'll go back to Xcode, and then at the bottom of my file, I'll just add that here. And so there are a few things I want to grab from this snippet. First, it's this URL. So I'm going to add that to the first configuration piece. And then I want to grab this ID as well. And I'm going to add that as my deployment ID. Okay, great. And then I can get rid of this. Okay, next, what I'm going to do is go to my button that I created and grab this code snippet from there. I'll do the same thing. I'll paste it in here and grab what I need. So the very first thing is the ID of the button, and all you need is this ID right here. And I'm going to add that, oops, right here, and I can get rid of the rest of this. Okay. And the last thing I need is my org ID, and I'm sure we all know how to find that one. So I'm going to go to company information and grab my org ID. Cool. Okay, and I'll grab that, paste it here. All right, that's not too bad, right? Okay, one last piece before we can make this work. So thank you for bearing with me and sticking around for this. Okay, this last piece is going to say take that configuration and start a session. So it's basically taking all of those IDs from our live agent implementation, and once we load the app and press that button, we're going to be able to launch the session. And that's it. So I'm going to press this square button to stop the app because it's currently running, and I'm going to press the play button again. I'll go over to the simulator. All right, so here's our app. It looks like it did before. And since we launched it, we added a button. So let's see if that button works. Let's see what it does. So pressing that button does exactly what we want it to do. It starts our chat. And this is a very basic implementation of it, but it works. It's an end-to-end proof of concept that you can use your own use cases for in your community as well as an iOS app. And all you need to do is write a few lines of code, you configure the rest, and then you really just need one mock-up to make this a real proof of concept for whoever you want to share it with. So that's it. And so we created a community, we created an Einstein bot, we created an implementation of Live Agent, we added the bot to our community, and we created a new iOS app, and then added the bot to that app. We also have a few things on our roadmap that we'd like to pursue, but we didn't pursue today. But I also wanted to list these out to give you ideas of how to take this POC to the next level. I'm also on Twitter, if I didn't mention it earlier, and in the next few weeks I'm going to be posting a written tutorial of this so that you can go and do this at home. So if you follow me, I'll be posting that in the next few weeks. If you want to learn more about communities, there's a great book that my colleague published recently called Practical Guide to Salesforce Communities. And you have a few different opportunities to get a free copy of that book, including a signing opportunity if you want to get the book signed. You can also stop by our booth 1400, if you'd like to get a free copy. And that's while supplies last, so we only have a limited amount of copies. I'll be at booth 1400 for the remainder of the afternoon if you'd like to talk about anything related to Einstein bots, communities, or iOS apps for Salesforce. So feel free to stop by if you'd like to say hi. I also want to remind you all to go to the developer keynote so you can learn how to build apps of the future. So I'm looking forward to that one. I know we lost a few minutes in the beginning, so there's not much time for questions, but in case anyone has any questions, you can ask over at the microphone there. Thank you for joining.